Hello! What happens if a meteorite hits a young girl right at her wedding, and then aliens attack the Earth? Today's cartoon will give an original answer to these and many other questions. In the dark depths of space, a planet is destroyed. It flies into thousands of pieces, and one of them is heading towards Earth. The block glows and quickly picks up speed. Researchers in Antarctica notice the movement of the celestial body and determine that it will fall into the city of Modesto, which is located in California. Morning comes to Modesto. Susan Murphy's friends and mother burst into her room and turn on the TV. The weatherman says that he is getting married today and declares his love to his beloved, Susan. She hears her beloved and smiles with affection. The girls do their makeup and get ready for the ceremony. She is driven to the church where the wedding is to take place. There the bride is met by her father and future mother-in-law. Everyone is waiting with bated breath for the wedding to begin. Susan is preparing to go on her honeymoon right after it. The newlyweds are going to Paris. The girl dreams of settling there and then traveling around the world. Susan goes to the gazebo and meets her fiancé Derek there. They discuss the trip, but the guy says that everything is canceled. Instead of Paris, it's time to go to Fresno, a provincial city in the USA. There, Derek has an audition for the role of evening news anchor. Susan tries to be happy for him, but it doesn't work out very well. She hides her disappointment and says that she is proud of her future husband. Then the girl rightly notes that it is a bad omen to date before the ceremony. And Derek leaves the gazebo. Susan is sad and alone until her solitude is interrupted by an unexpected guest. Her mother searches for the bride and finds her daughter dirty and rumpled. Susan manages to move away from the meteorite, so her mother does not notice the trick. As soon as they enter the church, a black government car pulls up to the building. During the ceremony, Susan's body begins to strangely glow turquoise, but it doesn't end there. The guests run away in panic from the 15-meter giant bride, and Derek is crushed by a beam. The church is falling apart under Susan's onslaught. The girl takes her fiancé in her huge hand and tries to carry him away from what is happening. Government helicopters are flying around and agents are scurrying around. Suddenly, the heroine is entangled in ropes, and the chosen one falls out of the palm and flies down. The weather presenter is caught with a trampoline and the military tries to arrest him. The girl gets a syringe with a tranquilizer. She falls to the ground. Her huge body is entangled with feds, like in a similar scene from the movie Gulliver. Susan falls asleep from an improvised dart and wakes up in a huge cell. After waking up, the bed automatically folds into the wall, and the room turns into an elevator. Soon the girl finds herself in an empty room with a minimum of furniture, 2 chairs and 2 tables. One pair is huge, the other is of normal size. Susan accidentally breaks the small seat with her huge foot. The girl feels that someone else is hiding in the room. Suddenly, a strange liquid with a spoon falls on the table. This is what food looks like here. A small insect peeks out from behind the pile and says hello to Susan. The girl gets scared and tries to hit the creature with a spoon. It dodges deftly and asks not to be hit, but ends up unconscious on the table. Susan backs away in surprise and fear. Suddenly, she steps into a strange substance and falls. The giantess peels the slime off her leg. A third creature appears out of nowhere. It looks like an amphibian. The giant girl's friendly neighbors ask her name and then sit down to eat. Food just falls on their miniature table from a protruding tube. Susan tries to convince herself that this is not real and backs away again. At one point, she seems to bump into a strange, furry wall. It turns out to be another inhabitant of the chamber, a huge insectosaurus. The other creatures ask not to scare it. The amphibian begins to calm the giant. Susan, in a panic, beats against all the walls and tries to find a way out. Behind one of the doors, there is a soldier on a jetpack. He herds everyone into their cells. The man introduces himself as a military general and gives Susan a tour. The place she is now in was created in 1950. It is necessary to hide the fact of monsters' existence from the population. Susan, for obvious reasons, is now also counted among them. The girl says that she is a human and is not dangerous at all. She accidentally shoots down a miniature helicopter circling around her head. Voyager explains that Susan is stuck here for an indefinite period of time, and that contact with the outside world is now impossible for her. The giantess is driven past the creatures contained in the facility. A genius professor with an insect head named Cockroach, an ancient fishman nicknamed the Missing Link, a jelly bean, and a giant insectosaurus. Susan has seen them all before. She is placed in a new cell with a poster of a kitten on the wall. At this point, she becomes sad and says that she wants to go home to her family. Voyager suggests that she resign herself and finally gives her a government name, Gigantica. Susan is left alone in her room. Then the action takes us back to the depths of space. There, a sleeping spaceship of an original shape is plowing through the expanses. Start the revival procedure. A huge four-eyed creature comes to its senses and hears that some kind of quantanium has been discovered on Earth. At this moment, a meteorite appears on the screen, hitting Susan. The evil alien Galactizer sends a robot drone to Earth. It is tasked with taking the quantanium at any cost. The next episode shows us a couple in a car. The girl and the guy are having a romantic time outside the city. Suddenly, a bright flash flies over them. The object falls nearby and explodes. The girl decides to check what's there. The guy runs after her and accidentally breaks his leg. Katie, that's her name, puts her lover on her shoulder and helps him climb to the top of the crater that has formed. A huge robotic eye looks at them through the smoke. In the morning, the military and the US president arrive at the UFO crash site. Now there is an alien tower there. At its top is the same eye that looked at the couple in love. The president, accompanied by two combat helicopters, rises to the podium to establish contact. Numerous soldiers are watching him closely. The country's leader makes a Spock gesture and begins his unusual way of communicating with the aliens. A huge hand appears from the ship. As soon as the president decides to shake it, the robot destroys the podium, unfolds into its full form and begins the invasion. The men barely manages to leave the stairs before they are completely destroyed. All armed forces at once begin to respond to the aggression with machine gun fire, aircraft, and missiles. But not a single projectile can penetrate the force field surrounding the invader. The military retreats, and the president quickly retreats in his helicopter. Beforehand, he fires 2 shots from his own pistol at the robot, well, to seem brave. There is a commotion at headquarters. At an emergency meeting, the generals decide to declare war on the robot. Suddenly, a warrior arrives in the room and offers his own plan to resolve the crisis. He sees that conventional weapons are of no use, but the military man wants to use monsters to deal with the robot. Then he briefly tells everyone gathered about his top secret prison for mysterious creatures. Just mentioning it is considered a federal crime in America. Voyager introduces his charges: an insect brew, a larva exposed to radiation, a missing link, a 20,000-year-old fishman, a cockroach, a genius scientist, and a victim of his own experiments on crossing insects and people. A sentient gelatinous mass of a bean and, of course, the main heroine, a giant. The man suggests forming a squad from the creatures and sending them to deal with the alien. The president gives the go-ahead. Meanwhile, the monsters play cards in their cell. The missing link, with the help of the insectosaurus, easily beats the dim-witted being. Cockroach is conducting strange experiments with Susan. Gigantica hopes to find a way to shrink, but the scientist's homemade apparatus from improvised means does not work. The guys tell Susan that not a single monster has left the prison in all this time. The missing link does not believe that it is possible to leave here. Voyager leads the team to their aircraft and instructs them along the way. He promises the guys freedom if the squad copes with the task. The newly minted saviors of the Earth board a plane and fly off on a mission. The insectosaurus moves separately due to its enormous size and ends up being late for the start. The plane lands near San Francisco. People are evacuated from the UFO landing zone, and the monsters are dropped off next to the aggressive giant from space. Voyager gives the final instructions that the robot should be damaged minimally and flies away. Susan sees the giant and runs away from him in excitement to hide in the city center. The mechanized giant tries to crush the link of Cockroach and Bob. Only the latter fails to jump out from under its feet, but the consistency of the creature allows him to remain unharmed. Cockroach sends the link to the deserted city and moves there himself. The robot finds the escaped Susan and scans her with its beam. It blows up the nearest building and throws rocks at the heroine. Gigantic descends onto the drain. The girl barely dodges the flying pieces of asphalt and cars. She climbs a building and runs from her pursuer along the roofs. In the end, Susan decides to make herself roller skates from two cars and quickly runs away on them. At this time, the link reaches the city through the sewer drains. Cockroach catches up with it on a modified tram with jet engines and takes it with him. On the way, they pick up Bob, too. The substance awkwardly sticks to the friends and the trailer falls off the bridge into the water. Meanwhile, Susan jumps over the place where the evacuation is taking place and quickly rushes along the highway. When the girl is driving on the bridge, the driver of a huge truck is distracted by her. He loses control, flips over, and completely blocks the passage. At this point, the robot gets closer and closer to the crossing. Susan runs up to the truck and tries to fix everything. But at this point, the bridge is attacked by an alien. He tries to shove the girl into his grinding mouth, but then the balance of power suddenly changes. The insect brew from his nose releases a stream of snot-like fluid at the robot. The blinded alien slows down for a moment. At this time, the rest of the squad appears on the bridge. The giant tries to grab Susan with his claw, but as soon as the trap closes, the girl forcibly opens the claws. The bridge continues to collapse, but Susan manages to save the people locked in the cars. Link tries to help her and jumps on the robot's armor. Immediately, the force field throws him aside. The cockroach comes into play. It crawls between the jaws and the giant right inside it. Reaching the control center, he connects the two contacts. The alien's eye emits a beam and confuses the Insectosaurus. Susan orders Bob to break the barrier between the lanes and get the people off the bridge. The substance decides to eat concrete blocks. While those trapped drive away, a brave girl holds the mechanical claw so that it does not break the asphalt any further. When everyone leaves the bridge, Susan grabs the cable supports in which the claws are entangled and pulls hard towards herself. The robot loses its balance and falls into the water. At the last moment before the collapse, Susan catches the link, and the cockroach leaves the cabin. Galactazar watches what is happening. The system informs him that Quantoni could not be extracted and shows him the satisfied face of the giant. The four-eyed villain goes berserk and orders to send a second robot for the prey. But the supercomputer says that the machine is not suitable for this. A carbon life form named Susan, along with her enormous growth, has also gained remarkable strength. Set course for Earth immediately. I will gladly extract Quantoni myself. The squad flies on a successful mission and discusses it. Gigantic is very pleased with herself, but the brutal Link is worried that he did a bad job. Although he considers himself very cool and courageous and constantly tells everyone about it, Susan wants to return to her usual and calm life. She is sure that gigantism will not last forever, and Derek will help find a cure. The plane lands and takes Susan to her hometown. Voyager has ordered that the local police not behave aggressively towards her. The girl invites her new friends to her place. The acquaintance, however, does not go well and begins with a broken fence. Gigantica accidentally crushes it with her foot. Susan is met on the porch by her relatives. They are happy to see her, but look warily at the giantess's companions. Bo, luckily, accidentally swallows the girl's mother, but manages to let her go. The others behave quietly. Susan notices that Derek is not among the people. The parents say that he is at work. Genormica asks to feed her friends and goes to get her fiancé. In her absence, the monsters try to entertain the guests and be friendly, but people are terrified of them and hide wherever they can. In the end, the guests simply run away in fear. The weather forecast is on TV. In it, Derek says goodbye to Modesto and announces that he is moving to Fresno. Suddenly, a huge hand reaches out from an open window right into the studio. Susan literally takes the tiny host and is happy to meet him. However, their date doesn't go well right away. The girl accidentally squeezes the guy until his bones crunch and then also unintentionally hits his head against the window frame. Susan puts the groom on the nearest roof and apologizes to him. She says that she hasn't gotten used to her size and strength yet, but she hopes to continue the relationship. Derek isn't thrilled with her new superpowers. Susan suggests that they figure it out together, but the narcissistic groom decides that it's better for them to break up, although he used to consider her his family. Gigantica asks him to stay, but the guy leaves. With tears in her eyes, she wanders outside the city and sits right on the roof of a gas station. There, her squad mates find her. The guys try to lie that the party went well, but they don't succeed very well. The missing link says with a sad sigh that he and his friends will never be able to fit into society properly. Then the amphibian asks Susan about Derek. Gigantica tells her what happened. She was disappointed in her selfish ex-fiancé. In the end, the girl concludes that she is better off without Derek. She gives an inspiring speech to her companions about their extraordinary nature. Suddenly, the unexpected happens. A gravity beam hits her from the sky and starts lifting her onto a huge spaceship. The Insectosaurus shoots Snot and tries to get Susan back, but is hit by an energy ball fired by Galactazar. The monster falls to the ground, and Enormica disappears into the huge hold. When Susan wakes up, she finds herself among hundreds of inactive robot drones. A mechanism immediately flies in and traps her in a cage. Galactazar also comes there. Together, Susan and the main alien follow the corridor. The alien tries to accuse the girl of stealing something from him that does not belong to her. He tells Gigantica about the most powerful substance in the universe, quantinium. The villain relentlessly hunts him. Susan is furious when she hears why Galactazar destroyed San Francisco and injured the Insectosaurus. On her second try, she manages to overcome the force field and reach the invader. The girl breaks her bonds and gives chase. She eventually catches up with Galactazar, but Octopus manages to trap her in an extraction chamber. The computer drains Susan's power and shrinks her height. All the forces will go to the villain. He wants to restore his civilization on the girl's home planet. By the way, Galactazar destroyed his old home on his own. The process of cloning the octopus begins. Thousands of his armed clones emerge from the incubators. Galactazar's army attacks Earth, and the leader himself, in the form of a hologram, contacts humanity. His speeches are shown on television. He announces the invasion of the planet and the destruction of its population. Panic begins among the people. All this time, the squad of monsters spends near the Insectosaurus. It lies motionless for a long time. It seems that a kind of cocoon has formed around him. The missing link calls to go to the ship, save Susan, and teach the alien leader a lesson. Voyager supplies his friends with one-way jetpacks, takes them to the UFO by plane and gives them their final parting words. He says that he was their overseer for 50 years, but now everything is different, and salutes. The general also promises to fly to help and evacuate the squad. The airlock opens, and the team flies to carry out the mission. The Voyager tries to buy time for his charges and takes the fire on himself. The ship fires a huge energy sphere, which previously knocked out the Insectosaurus. The pilot weaves, does various tricks, but does not avoid being hit. The plane explodes with a roar. The couple lands right on the Insectosaurus, which starts moving. At the space base, the aliens load into the transport and prepare to attack the Earthlings. The monsters arrive there too. Bob quickly conducts a stealthy reconnaissance with his extendable and calls the others out of hiding. The trio tries to move as carefully as possible. Meanwhile, Galactizer tries to control his army of clones. When everyone is like you, it's not that easy. It takes him 1,000 tries to call out to the right soldier. He orders Susan to be sent for disposal because there is no longer any need for her. The clone takes the former giantess away. The monsters closely monitor the appearance of new hordes of invaders. They also notice a much smaller Susan. Bob suggests an idea. The trio joins the aliens and tries to imitate them. At first, the friends think that nothing will work out, but the copies clearly did not inherit the mind of their original. Suddenly, the monster trinity appears in front of the leading Susan overseer. She is happy to see her squad, but deliberately does not show it. The Link orders to hand over the captive, but the Girl Scout takes him for a failed comrade and also wants to send him for disposal. He orders Cockroach and Bob to do this, because for some reason he does not see anything suspicious in them. He also gives the monsters a pass and weapons. Bob immediately tests the blaster and sends the villain into a deep knockout. Susan thanks her comrades for saving her, and Link notes that monsters must stick together. The former giantess says that she is now ordinary, but Cockroach notes that she will always be dear to them. At the end, he is interrupted by the clones who have arrived. The scientists finish the sentence with curses addressed to Carbon Life and a cry of glory to Galactizer, so as not to be suspected. The squad moves around the ship and decides how to save the Earth. Cockroach believes that the UFO must be destroyed in midair before it launches a full-scale attack on the monster's home planet. To do this, the team must find the central power processor. Bob decides to find out where the nearest clone has it. He does not refuse help and immediately points out the direction. Having reached the target, Cockroach accidentally fires a blaster and knocks out one of the soldiers. This is noticed by the others and Galactizer himself. He orders all monsters to be destroyed. The clones rush into battle, but the team fights back. The squad throws the arriving enemies with their hands. Susan shoots with a blaster, and Bob has a unique style. The squad scatters a whole legion of aliens, but they are immediately replaced by another one, or rather 3. Bob saves the situation again. He stretches out into a huge sticky rope, attaches himself to the ceiling and picks up his friends. The squad enters the system's central processor compartment. It resembles a huge, blue glowing brain. There's a complex security system there, but Cockroach immediately recognizes it and tries to hack it. The hacking process most resembles a game of dancing on a glowing carpet. At the end, Doc finally reveals what discipline he has a degree in. The defense gives in and the ship begins the process of self-destruction. The system refuses to invade Earth. Galactizer wants to take all of Quantanium and escape in an escape pod. Susan and the monsters, meanwhile, overtake the clones on their way to the closing doors. At the last moment, Link steals a flying bike and picks up his friends. However, Bob and Cockroach cannot fit completely on the device and fall right in front of a tightly locked door. Only Susan was able to get through. She slipped through a tiny crack. The squad asks the giant to go to the warrior, but she does not want to leave her comrades. There are 4 minutes left until the base is completely destroyed. Susan finds some air rollers nearby and races towards Galactizer. She flies through the holes in the doors that she made during her previous pursuit of the alien. Susan flies through the robot bay as they try to reach her with their claws. The girl quickly rushes between the guards and connects their force fields. The storage compartment explodes. Susan flies out, flies around the ship and dodges a shot from its huge energy cannon. Then she knocks out the main villain with a death throw. Galactizer drops his blaster, falls to the floor and comes to his senses when Gigantica flies towards him on a single skate. Susan orders to free her friends, but the leader's capsule and his Quantoni are ready to leave. The heroine jumps on the fleeing octopus and drops it. She ends up poking it in the eye and grabbing a blaster from the floor. The villain tells Susan that nothing can be done, and my name is Denormica. After that, she shoots straight at the Quantanium tank and it falls on her head again. There is 1 minute left until complete destruction. In the collapsing compartment, 3 monsters are already saying goodbye to life. A huge container falls on them from above, but at the last moment Susan, who has grown up again, catches it. She grabs her friends in an armful and, like a superwoman, breaks through the wall of the ship and then grabs onto its very edge. The heroes are hanging by a thread again. 30 seconds remain until destruction. The warrior does not evacuate the squad, and the monsters fall down. The cockroach decides that the general is dead. Rescued by the warrior and the insectosaurus, the crew bravely circles the burning ship, which is blown to pieces. Galactizer does not have time to fly away. At Susan's home, the monsters are greeted as heroes. This time the girls again rush screaming at the missing link, but this time with adoration, not fear. Derek appears among the people, but he has come not to ask for forgiveness, but to accept it. He says that he does not consider Susan guilty, although according to him, when the bride grew, she destroyed everything that was between them. Derek also says that he will get a job on national TV if he can interview the giant, and he promises to continue the relationship. Susan's answer is not long in coming. She literally dumps the guy. Susan's ex-fiancé is caught by Bob with his soft body. After that, the funny monster dumps Derek and says that he is leaving him for pineapple jelly. Bob remained himself at the end of the cartoon. Voyager calls the squad to work again. A snail got into the nuclear reactor and is now crawling to destroy Paris. The team sets off on a new mission and flies off into the sunset. The multiple Star Trek references are not the only ones in the cartoon. All the monsters featured in it are parodies of the monsters from classic horror films of the 50s and 60s. But that's not all the Easter eggs. When Galactizer talks about what he's going to do to Earth, a scene from Madagascar plays in the upper left corner. As always, we left the name of the cartoon in the description of the video. Like and click the bell to be the first to know about new videos. Write in the comments which of the movie monsters seems the most interesting and memorable to you.